have almost always changed the land they set foot on. They carve roads through mountains, build bridges across rivers, raise cities, and gradually turn nature into part of civilization. But Alaska is an exception. It is one of the largest states in the United States, yet fewer than 700,000 people live there. Although it is part of one of the most developed countries in the world, many communities still have no road connections. Some places are only a few dozen kilometers apart, yet the only way to travel between them is by plane or boat. Not because of a lack of technology, and not because of a lack of resources, but because nature still holds the final authority. Why has one of the most resource-rich regions on Earth become a place where people must adapt instead of conquer? The answer begins with the very forces that created Alaska, where ice mountains and the ocean continue to quietly shape this land just as they have for millions of years. The first Europeans to reach Alaska did not come from North America. They arrived from the other side of the Pacific Ocean. Alaska is part of the United States and lies on the North American continent. But for thousands of years, this land was almost impossible to reach overland. Coastal mountain ranges rising thousands of meters, vast stretches of dense forest, and thousands of islands lining the shoreline turned this region into a natural maze. Reaching Alaska by sea was always easier than traveling by land. After crossing Siberia and the Bering Strait in the late 18th century, Russian traders did not discover fertile farmland or large cities. What kept them here was the cold, life-rich ocean, where sea otters lived in remarkable numbers. The thick, soft fur of these animals was once considered a luxury in China and Russia, valuable enough to drive sea voyages stretching for thousands of kilometers. Amid a maze of islands, fjords, and coastal forests, Sitka emerged as the best location for controlling maritime routes. From here, the Russians established their first administrative center in North America and made it the gateway to Alaska for many decades. Yet they never truly mastered this land. The Tlingit people had lived along the southeastern coast of Alaska for thousands of years before European ships arrived. They controlled the coastal waterways, harvested salmon, hunted seals, and traded goods among coastal communities. In 1802, Tlingit warriors attacked and destroyed the Russian outpost at Sitka. 2 years later, the Russians returned with a larger force and reclaimed the settlement after a decisive battle. That control did not last forever. By the middle of the 19th century, sea otter populations had declined sharply, profits from the fur trade had fallen, and the Russian Empire was facing serious financial difficulties. In 1867, Alaska was sold to the United States for $7.2 million. The transfer ceremony took place on Castle Hill in Sitka, where the Russian flag was lowered and the flag of the United States was raised. But it was not the natural harbors alone that kept the Russians here. The real reason this settlement could exist lay directly behind it. A temperate rainforest covering nearly 7 million hectares, where rain falls almost year-round and Sitka spruce trees can live for more than 800 years. Every year, more than 100 million Pacific salmon return to Alaska's coastal rivers to spawn. They fight their way through swift currents, rocky rapids, and even waterfalls, only to complete their life cycle in the very place where they were born. Southeastern Alaska is the destination for a large share of that migration. Moist air from the Pacific Ocean meets the coastal mountain ranges, producing some of the highest rainfall totals in North America. Meltwater from mountain glaciers feeds thousands of cold streams that flow through the Tongass forest before reaching the sea. The clear, cold, oxygen-rich water has made this coastline one of the world's largest salmon-spawning regions. Ketchikan grew in the middle of that natural cycle. The Tlingit people had lived here for thousands of years. Salmon served as food, as a trading commodity, and played an important role in many of their ceremonies. Every summer, brown bears gather along the streams to hunt. Bald eagles fill the Sitka spruce trees along the riverbanks, creating one of the highest eagle concentrations in North America. When they carry salmon into the forest to feed, the remains decompose and release nutrients into the soil. Tree roots absorb those nutrients. In this way, bears literally fertilize the forest, linking the ocean and the land in one continuous cycle. The water that sustains this entire ecosystem does not begin in the forest. It begins in the glaciers that are still quietly shaping Alaska. There is a state capital in the United States that you cannot reach by car. Not because it is located on an island, and not because there was never enough funding to build a road. Simply because nature has never allowed it. For millions of years, glaciers hundreds of meters thick slowly flowed from the coast mountains toward the ocean. Under their immense weight, they crushed granite, carved deep valleys, and gradually retreated as the climate warmed. Seawater later filled those basins, creating the thousands of fjords that define Alaska today. Endicott Arm is one of the places where that process can still be seen with the naked eye. At the end of the fjord, Dawes Glacier continues to flow from the Stikine ice field. Massive blocks of ice regularly break away from the glacier and crash into the sea. The drifting ice flows become resting places for harbor seals during the breeding season. Every year, thousands of visitors travel by boat into Endicott Arm to witness this spectacle from close range. As glaciers eroded the mountains over millions of years, many mineral veins that had once been buried deep underground gradually became exposed. In 1880, Joe Juneau and Richard Harris discovered gold at Gold Creek. News spread quickly along the coast. Within just a few months, camps, harbors, and mining operations appeared one after another. Across the channel, the Treadwell mine on Douglas Island also grew into one of the largest gold mines in the world. A small settlement quickly became the center of the entire region. That settlement was Juneau. Few people realize that the capital of Alaska remains almost completely isolated from the rest of the state. Steep mountain ranges rise on one side, while glacier-carved fjords lie on the other. That landscape makes road construction almost impossible, leaving airplanes and ships as the primary ways to reach the city. Behind Juneau stretches the Juneau ice field, covering nearly 4,000 square kilometers. More than 30 glaciers begin here before flowing into the valleys and fjords surrounding the city. Since the 1940s, scientists have continuously monitored changes across this ice field. Most of its glaciers have been steadily shrinking. About 20 kilometers away lies Mendenhall Glacier. For about 3,000 years, this glacier flowed through the valley, carving the landscape and forming Mendenhall Lake. Since 1930, the glacier's edge has retreated by more than 1.6 kilometers. Places where visitors could once touch the ice are now marked by signs along the trail, showing just how rapidly Mendenhall has changed. But ice was not the only reason people were willing to push into this land. Something even more valuable drew them here. More than 100,000 people once came to Alaska searching for gold, but most of them never found a single gram. In the late 19th century, news of the Klondike gold discovery spread across North America. Within just a few months, tens of thousands of people sold their belongings, left their jobs, and headed north. To reach the Yukon, almost all of them had to pass through Skagway. But the sea could only bring them this far. From Skagway to the goldfields of the Yukon, there were still more than 500 kilometers of mountain trails ahead. Under Canadian regulations, each person had to carry nearly 1 ton of food and supplies before being allowed to cross the border. White Pass and Chilkoot Pass quickly became the two busiest routes. Many people had to make dozens of trips back and forth just to transport enough supplies, and countless others gave up on the snow-covered slopes before ever reaching their destination. To shorten the journey, construction of the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad began in 1898. In less than 2 years, thousands of workers blasted through rock with explosives, built wooden bridges, and laid tracks across steep mountain slopes. When the railway was completed in 1900, it quickly became one of the engineering marvels of its time. The White Pass and Yukon route railroad still operates today. Instead of carrying gold seekers, its trains now take visitors across wooden bridges, through tunnels, and along mountain slopes following the very same historic route. But gold was not found only in the Yukon. Gold deposits were gradually discovered in many other parts of Alaska. Hatcher Pass was one of them. Located within the Talkeetna Mountains, the Independence Mine was once one of the largest gold mines in the state before closing in 1942. Patches of snow still cling to the mountainsides even in the middle of summer, while small glaciers continue to feed streams flowing into the valley. It was the region's tectonic activity and mineralization that created the gold veins, which once drew thousands of people into these mountains. Gold was discovered at Hatcher Pass in 1906. By the 1930s, the Independence Mine had become one of Alaska's most productive gold mines. Tens of thousands of ounces of gold were extracted before operations came to an end during the Second World War as gold prices fell and mining costs continued to rise. Wooden buildings, tunnels, and ore crushers still stand on the mountainside, preserving the memory of a time when mineral wealth shaped the future of the entire region. There is a city that is home to nearly 40% of Alaska's population, yet just a few minutes beyond downtown. The streets can end at the edge of a forest, where moose and bears still appear as ordinary residents of this land. That is not because Alaska lacks cities, but because most of the state's territory has never been suitable for large urban centers. Between Cook Inlet, the mouth of Ship Creek, and the Chugach Mountains lies the only broad plain large enough to support a major transportation hub. That location determined the birth of Anchorage. When construction of the Alaska Railroad began in 1915, the workers' camp quickly grew into Anchorage. From here, the railroad, seaport, and later air routes connected southern Alaska with the vast interior, where most people and goods passed before continuing their journeys. The earthquake measuring 9.2 on the Richter scale on March 27, 1964, caused widespread destruction across the city. Anchorage was rebuilt on the same ground and continued to expand. From the city streets, snow-covered peaks still rise along the horizon, while trains, seaplanes, and helicopters continue each day to carry visitors to glaciers, national parks, and Alaska's wilderness. Leaving Anchorage behind, the buildings gradually disappear. Residential neighborhoods give way to open fields stretching beneath the Talkeetna Mountains. In a state famous for ice and snow, one region became Alaska's largest agricultural area. The Matanuska Valley was formed from glacial sediment carried downstream over thousands of years. This rare layer of fertile soil made it one of the few places in Alaska capable of supporting agriculture on a large scale. More than 200 families from the American Midwest arrived in the Matanuska Valley during the 1930s. Many had never experienced an Arctic winter, yet they stayed and transformed the valley into Alaska's agricultural heartland. Nearly 20 hours of daylight each summer allow cabbages, potatoes, and barley to grow to remarkable sizes. Farmers markets and giant vegetable festivals have become familiar stops for travelers exploring southern Alaska before the road continues toward the mountain ranges farther north. But not every part of Alaska can be reached by railroad or mountain highways. In some places, surrounded by ice, mountains, and the ocean, people have had to find an entirely different way forward. There is a place where the school, the post office, the grocery store, and nearly the entire population are all housed in the same building. To understand why, you first have to look at the landscape that gave rise to this town. That place is Whittier. The town sits on Prince William Sound, a network of fjords created when massive glaciers carved deep into the Chugach Mountains before retreating at the end of the Ice Age. The rugged terrain left Whittier almost completely isolated. For many decades, trains and ships were the only ways to reach the town. It was not until 2000 that the Anton Anderson Tunnel, stretching more than 4 kilometers, opened to automobile traffic, becoming the longest combined railroad and highway tunnel in North America. The landscape also determined how people would live. Since the Cold War, most residents have lived in baggage towers, where the school, grocery store, post office, and many essential services are all just a few minutes walk apart. Not because there was too little land, but because strong winds, heavy snowfall, and long winters made this concentrated way of living the most practical form of adaptation. But Whittier is only the gateway to an even larger stretch of ocean waiting beyond. More than 150 glaciers continue to flow into Prince William Sound, bringing cold, oxygen-rich water that supports one of the richest marine ecosystems in North America. Every year, salmon return to these rivers to spawn, drawing bald eagles, sea otters, harbor seals, humpback whales, and many other species to these waters. These natural resources have sustained human communities for thousands of years. The Chugach-Alutiiq people lived along this coastline long before European explorers arrived. They were followed by Russian traders, gold seekers, railroad workers, and later fishing communities. On March 24, 1989, that balance was shattered when the oil tanker Exxon Valdez ran aground on Bligh Reef, spilling more than 41 million liters of crude oil into the surrounding waters. Thousands of kilometers of coastline were contaminated, while populations of sea otters, harbor seals, and seabirds suffered devastating losses. Prince William Sound gradually recovered thanks to its vast network of fjords. The constant flow of cold glacial water and the temperate rainforests of Chugach National Forest surrounding its coastline. Cruise boats and kayaks take visitors among towering glaciers, while also revealing just how resilient nature can be when it is protected. This body of water did more than change the way people viewed the environment. It also led to the development of a seaport that transformed Alaska's entire economy. There was a time when neither gold nor salmon drove Alaska's economy. Instead, most of the state's economy depended on something that flowed through these mountains every day. That was oil. Located at the end of Prince William Sound, Valdez is surrounded by towering mountains and glaciers that descend directly into the sea. Its deep water harbor never freezes, making it one of Alaska's most important natural ports. Everything changed after oil was discovered at Prudhoe Bay on the North Slope in 1968. Instead of shipping it through the ice-covered waters of the Arctic Ocean, the United States built the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, stretching nearly 1,300 kilometers. The pipeline carries oil across mountains, rivers, and permafrost before ending at the port of Valdez. From that point on, millions of barrels of oil were loaded onto tankers every day, turning Valdez into Alaska's largest oil export terminal and helping reshape the state's entire economy. Amid the pipelines and the busy harbor, nature continues to follow its own rhythms. Those natural processes have created one of the richest ecosystems in North America. More than 1,000 bears can live within a single national park without ever depending on people for food. The remarkable part is that their food source does not begin in this forest. It begins on an ice field covering more than 1,800 square kilometers on the Kenai Peninsula. Each year, snow continues to accumulate on the hardening ice field before gradually compressing into ice. Under its own immense weight, the massive ice sheet slowly flows toward the sea, creating dozens of glaciers that cut through the coastal mountains. This is how Kenai Fjords National Park was formed. Meltwater carries minerals and cold, oxygen-rich water into the fjords. Plankton flourish, followed by schools of small fish. Harbor seals, sea otters, whales, and eventually millions of salmon. Every summer, salmon leave the Pacific Ocean and swim hundreds of kilometers upstream to spawn in the very rivers that begin in the glaciers. That journey not only ensures the survival of their species, but also carries nutrients from the ocean back onto the land. Where the highway ends and the ocean begins, there is Homer, a town that locals simply call the end of the road. The town stands on the shore of Kachimak Bay. Across the water, glaciers and snow-covered mountains fill the horizon. Extending from the center of town is Homer Spit, a narrow strip of land stretching 4.5 miles into the bay, covered with gravel and old fishing shacks. This town did not first grow because of the sea. In the late 19th century, coal seams were discovered in the nearby cliffs. A man named Homer Pennock, along with many others, arrived hoping to build a fortune through mining. But the mining industry soon declined. Cold water flowing from the Kenai Peninsula mixes with the currents of the Gulf of Alaska, creating one of the state's richest fishing grounds. Salmon, crabs, and especially Pacific halibut thrive here. Some halibut grow to more than 100 kilograms, earning Homer the nickname halibut fishing capital of the world. The harbor is always busy with commercial fishing boats, while other vessels carry visitors into the bay to fish and watch sea otters, whales, and bald eagles along the coastline. The sea and the coastal forests are only one part of Alaska. Farther north, the trees gradually disappear, and permafrost begins to appear just beneath the ground. A city built on ground that has remained frozen for thousands of years. Beneath the surface lies permafrost, ground that has stayed frozen for thousands of years. These conditions mean that every building, road, and piece of infrastructure must be designed to adapt to a foundation that changes with the temperature. People did not come to Fairbanks because of the ice. In 1901, a riverboat ran aground on the Chena River while passing through this remote wilderness. Not long afterward, gold was discovered nearby. Gold seekers quickly pitched tents and built log cabins along the rivers, turning Fairbanks into the center of the gold rush in Alaska's interior and the main supply hub for mining camps throughout the Tanana Valley. When the gold rush came to an end, Fairbanks found a new purpose. The city grew into the commercial transportation and research center of Central Alaska. The University of Alaska Fairbanks became one of the world's leading institutions for studying permafrost, climate, and Arctic ecosystems, helping scientists better understand how life adapts at the planet's highest latitudes. Winter temperatures in Fairbanks often fall below -40 degrees Celsius. Daylight lasts only a few hours. Yet that long darkness has made the city one of the world's best places to see the northern lights. On the shore of the Arctic Ocean, Utqiagvik is the northernmost permanent community in the United States. For several weeks each winter, the sun never rises. Then, in summer, daylight lasts for months. Life here is not measured by 4 seasons like it is in most parts of the world, but by the changing sea ice, the returning light, and the migrations of wildlife. Those conditions shape the culture of the Inupiat people. For generations, they have relied on bowhead whales, seals, fish, and caribou. Whaling provides food for the entire community, while also serving as a tradition that brings families together. Visitors do not come to Utqiagvik in search of cities or famous landmarks. They come to stand beside the Arctic Ocean and experience the place where roads, forests, and almost every familiar sign of civilization come to an end. Although this journey has come to an end, Alaska continues to change just as it has for millions of years. Glaciers are still moving. Salmon are still returning from the ocean. And people continue adapting to a land where nature always has the final say. Perhaps that is what makes Alaska one of the most extraordinary places on Earth. Thank you for joining us throughout this journey across Alaska. We hope the landscapes and stories of this remarkable land will leave you with memories that last long after the journey ends. Goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you on our next adventure.